Hey crazy friends, it's Jay, Find You Crazy. We're a family of 9 who travel full-time in our RV with 6 of our kids as they go around the country to see every national park. But today is another maintenance video. Today we're going to be talking about replacing a landing gear. So if you've got a fifth wheel camper like we do, on the front you've got those 2 legs that go up and down your landing gear. And one of ours is busted. Specifically that one right there that's missing is busted. And so today we're going to talk about how to replace that. But first, you got to move your kid's kitchen. So today's repair is for mechanical landing gear. So if you've got a newer rig and you've got hydraulic landing gear, this is not for you. Some of the principles are the same, but some of them obviously are not. So specifically, I have a 2013 KZ Durango. That's our fifth wheel. And this is only on fifth wheel campers. And again, only on the mechanical. The mechanical meaning that they are driven by a motor. And so you have 2 landing gear, one you can see here and the other one is on the ground, but it would be sticking out right over here. And on this side, this is called the drive side, and there's a motor right up here at the top, and then there's a bar that goes across on the inside and connects it to this leg, which is called the follow leg or the slave leg. And so with it, that's the one that we're having to repair, which is good because it's a whole lot easier because you don't have to deal with the motor and all the gears up there. It's pretty simple to get this one off. But you might be saying, I'm having a little bit of deja vu here, Jay. Haven't we fixed this before? So if you follow along in all our videos, you know this is actually the second time, actually third time, that I've tried to fix this same leg. You can link to the video right up there to see the last video where I took apart the inside and refixed some of the gears. And I actually did that twice over the past about 13 months. Each time it bought me about 6 or 7 months. And each time it cost me like a little bit of time and like a 20-cent little washer one time. So it was well worth it, but unfortunately it just does not fix the problem. What happened with this leg originally is my son, who was being super helpful one day, when we were setting up, he didn't lock the telescoping part of the leg in. And so we lifted the camper up, thinking we were lifting it up on both legs, but because that telescoping piece wasn't locked in, the leg was just moving up and down that outer part on that one side. And so all of the weight of the camper was on one leg, that leg. And so basically it just bent it just a little bit. And so 90% of the time it would work, but sometimes it would get at just the right spot in or out or just the right angle, and it would basically just lock up, and that would shear off either the drive pin on the inside or those gears on the inside. And basically what that ended up doing is just, making it to the point where it's just going to keep messing up. So, it bought me a year, but now I'm just going to have to go ahead and fix everything. The nice thing about this repair is it's really not that difficult. It's probably only going to take you about 45 minutes to an hour, and you really only need 3 tools. You need a socket set with a couple of different sockets, a socket wrench for those longer bolts, and then a screwdriver just to put that drive pin back in, and really that's it. I got my spare part from eTrailer, and it cost me about $165, I think, for that one follow leg. And so really, all in all, not a bad repair. Let's get started. So the first thing you're going to need to do to get started is to jack up your campers. Obviously, you're going to need some blocks and a jack, depending on what you have. I just use these guys, and normally one is fine to get it up off the ground, but I had to order this part, and so my camper's been sitting here without that other leg for like 3 days, so I just put 2 under there just to give it a little bit of stability. The only thing here to remember is just make sure that those are sitting right up under the frame. You're just going to jack them up basically just until you can take the pressure off of that leg, and then you can take the leg out. All right, so as I said, the first thing you're going to do is once you've got it jacked up, is to take the old leg off. Now, it's really not that difficult, but it is difficult to see down there where you're doing it. So we're going to do it right here, and it'll be a lot easier to see. So the first thing that you want to do is disconnect the foot from the bottom. and it's got just this little tab that you pull across, and then you can pull this pin out. And now the foot's disconnected, but it's still under there. We're going to talk about that in a second. Then the next thing you want to do is take off this piece that controls the telescoping. And you can see there's two little bolts right here. So you're just going to get your ratchet, and I've already loosened it up, obviously. But take one of these out. And the secret there is you actually only have to take one, see if that moves out of the way. And you can just pull it right off. And now what that's going to do is disconnect this telescoping part from this part. Now all the bottom parts are loose and you're ready to go inside. Inside, the first thing you're going to do is disconnect the bar that goes across that transfers the motion from one side to the other. And so there's just one bolt that's right there. So you see right here, you just take it out and then you can pull that bar off. It just retracts back. Then you're loose at the top. Then you're going to go down and you're going to take the actual housing off, which is two big bolts, and that's where you're going to want to have your ratchet and a wrench. These things are so long, my socket wouldn't go all the way on, and it's just kind of tight in there, so I needed both to be able to get it off. And mine are 9/16. I don't know exactly what yours would be, but that's what mine are. And so then once you take those bolts out, this guy is basically loose in there. It just sits, these tabs that you see right here, there's a part of the camper that it just sits on the top and the bottom of. And so once you take those bolts off the front, then this guy is loose. Here's the trick. You're not going to try to take this thing out the bottom. You're going to take it out the top. So that's why we disconnected the foot and that telescoping thing first. So then all you're going to do is lift up and you'll see that the telescoping piece and the foot are then out, and this will turn and come right out of the top, and then your leg is out. The next thing you want to do is you got to identify what leg you have. And right here on the top, there is a cap that you can see that pops off. And inside of that cap, there's some grease in there. But inside of that cap is a number, and that's the number for yours. Mine happens to the Adventure, and this is a VMC 900L, and the L is the follow leg. If you had an R at the end, that would be the drive side leg. Now, they don't make these anymore, and it doesn't have to be a specific name brand anyway. And so honestly, what I did is I just called E-Trailer, got them on the phone. They're kind of my go-to for kind of random RV parts. And so I called them and said, look, here's the model number that I've got. What have you got that matches up to it? And they were able to give me a couple of options, and then I was able to choose. The main thing that you want to know before you do that is here on your housing, these tabs that are welded on, you're going to want to know the distance between the outside of the tabs, because the bracket on the inside of your camper, that is what they sit up against. And then you're going to want to know if these are on the outside. So this is the way that mine sits. So this is the follow leg, and that bar comes across from the other side. And so you can see these lean up against the frame on the outside of it. Some of them are tabbed on the other side. Most of them are on the outside. And you're going to want to know this distance between the outside of these two tabs, because that's where it sits. The distance on the inside is actually not as big a deal. My inside distance didn't actually match up, but that doesn't really matter. That's just how big these tabs are. It doesn't really have anything to do with how they sit. That outside is what you want. And then the other measurement that you need to have is the actual length of this outer black piece, the outside housing. And then from that, you can get the model number that you need to replace yours, and then you're ready to put that new guy in. All right, so here is my new leg. And this one is compatible with Lippert, Ultrafab, I've never heard of that one, and Venture, which is what my old landing gear this guy is. And so like I said, it really doesn't matter. What matters is you can see the length of the outer housing is the same, and you can see that these tabs match up on the top and bottom the same. And so now we're going to put this guy back in, and we're basically just going to do everything that we just talked about, just in reverse. And so stick it in, make sure that these tabs line up with those pieces inside, put your bolts back in, put your your top end, and then you're going to reuse your foot and your quick release for your telescoping leg. This just comes with a pin that's in there, so we're going to reuse all of those things, and then we're good to go. All right, so now that we are done with attaching those two bolts, the last thing to do on the inside as far as connecting stuff is to connect that crossbar to the pin at the top that drives that top gearbox. But before you do that, you got to make sure that it's in the same position as the other leg, because obviously you want them to be going in and out at the same length. And so what you need to do is you need to come to your existing leg, and you'll see right up here, you can barely see the bottom of that black outer housing. And so what you're wanting to measure is from that outer housing to the bottom of this first part of the telescoping. So not this inner telescoping piece, because that's the piece you can adjust with these holes. It's this center piece of the three pieces. This piece is what the motor actually drives up and down. This is the part that you adjust. So this is what you need to look at. So you're going to measure from the bottom of that black piece to the bottom of this, and mine is 10¼ inches down. And so then you're going to go inside and you're going to manually drive down. I put like a screwdriver through the hole that makes it easy to spin around. So you're going to go to the new leg and spin it down until it is also 10¼ inches down, and then you can reattach the drive bar. Alright, now we're going to reattach the old foot and the old quick release for the telescoping arm just by reversing what we did with the two bolt, well, really just the one bolt on the quick release and then the one pin on the foot. So the last thing we have to do is get the weight of the camper back on the landing gear and off of the jacks. And so to do that, we're going to put the landing gear in approximately the right place. I've got it dropped all the way to the ground. You can see the pins not in, so we need to go up just a little bit more to get that lined up. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to jack up the camper slowly until that pops in, and then I'm going to let the weight off the jacks and it'll be sitting back on its brand new landing gear. So there you go, it was that easy. If I hadn't been trying to film, which was probably the hardest part of trying to get up into those spaces and film, it would have only taken me about 30 minutes. Again, I only used 3 tools, 4 if you count the measuring tape, but overall, not a lot of work, not a lot of effort, not a lot of expertise, and I've got a brand new landing gear right there. So if you haven't followed our channel, we would love for you to do that. You can catch more of our maintenance videos as well as our Tip Tuesdays where my wife shares stuff for helping inside the camper with those big families, and also our weekly travel vlog. We'd love to have you follow along. You can click right over there to subscribe, like, even check out some of our other videos. So until next time, guys, go out and have some crazy fun with your crazy family. See ya.